the lesson demonstrates that in the book of Daniel, every chapter in the book of Daniel is a revelation about Christ. Chapter 1 is a loose metaphor for our captivity in sin. Nebuchadnezzar takes Israel captive and leads them off, and he takes the articles of the temple. This is Satan taking humanity captive and the spirit temple captive. Daniel and his three friends, though, stay true to God and do not contaminate their spirit temple. It's a metaphor to Christ who comes to earth and keeps his spirit temple pure. Chapter 2. The kingdoms of the world fall one after another, eventually ending up fragmented and unable to be united until Christ sets up his kingdom. Chapter 3. Christ walks with his faithful servants through the fiery trials of this world, and the smoke does not enter their clothing. Clothing represents character, and so as we go through the fiery trials, the smoke of sin does not embed itself into our characters. Chapter 4. Christ therapeutically, and we're going to unpack this a little more, intervenes to heal Nebuchadnezzar of selfishness and pride. Chapter 5, Christ reveals that the methods and practices of this world result only in death, foreshadowing the coming of Christ to cleanse the world from sin. Chapter 6, Daniel is still captive in a pagan kingdom. Now we're in Medo-Persia, not Babylon. But stays true to God, keeps his spirit temple pure, and stands up to evil, and is sentenced to death based on lies. Is thrown into a pit, into the ground, but comes up out of the ground to be a ruler again in the nation. This loosely represents Christ, who came to earth, kept his spirit temple pure, revealed God's truth, was sentenced to death, all based on lies, went into the grave, but destroyed death, comes out of the grave to bring life and immortality to light, and of course, to rule. Chapter 7. Jesus in heaven receives his kingdom and reigns over the universe. Chapter 8. Christ as high priest applies his remedy to cleanse his people and prepare them to live in his presence. Chapter 9 reveals Christ wins the victory by becoming the sacrificial Lamb of God who destroys the infection of selfishness and establishes a new sinless and perfect humanity. Chapter 10 through 12 represents Christ as Michael leading his agencies to fight the forces of evil, ultimately delivering his people from death. So, you find in every chapter of the book of Daniel, it centers on Christ and what Christ is trying to achieve in the context of the great controversy. That's the context. Monday's lesson